Hey, what's up? It's me, JDS4696, and today I'm going to be giving a film review for The Amazing Spider-Man. As you can see, this is like the particular version I had of it. I had the actual like Blu-ray of it. Now this right here is like a reboot of the Spider-Man film franchise. Instead of them calling it Spider-Man 4, they actually are calling it The Amazing Spider-Man, which is actually based on one of like the monthly, I think, Spider-Man titles they had in comic books, known as The Amazing Spider-Man. Now this reboot, not only was this like a reboot, you also have like a new cast of like stars like in the roles of these like these characters. So, like Peter Parker Spider-Man, he is now played by Andrew Garfield, and then you have it's like the unmade role. She is now played by Sally Field. The Uncle Ben role is played by Martin Sheen. So like, and then you have like new characters who are introduced into the storyline that are a major part of like the Spider-Man mythos. Like you have Gwen Stacy, who is like a major part, and I think she was actually before Mary Jane, like his first like love interest, and she is played by Emma Stone. And then you also have the villain of the film, who is the Lizard, and he is played by Rhys Ifans. And you also have the father of Gwen Stacy, who is played by Dennis Leary. Now the two Stacys, they are very well known, like in the Spider-Man like mythos, because they are both a part of like this tragic storyline that happened. I'm not going to spoil it for people who don't know like the storyline. I still haven't actually read that particular like story myself. But yeah, this film is it's like a reboot of the Spider-Man franchise. Instead, this time you give like what's kind of off about they actually retold like the origin tale again, and a lot of people were kind of against that. Why do we have to see like this origin tale again? But it's kind of similar to like the Batman films to a certain extent, because how they always show like Bruce Wayne's parents being murdered. So at the same time it's kind of there. You can kind of understand where they were going with it. Us having to see like this origin story retold again. So yeah, you see like Peter Parker, like he witnesses his Uncle Ben being killed, then he decides to become, like this hero and stuff. Instead, like in this film, it's kind of different the way it's actually told, like when his uncle was shot, like Uncle Ben, who was played by Martin Sheen, when he is shot in this film, it's kind of different than what happened in like the previous film. But it also gives like a glimpse of like Peter Parker as like a very young boy, and you get to see like his actual parents and what happened to them to a certain extent. Cause that kind of backstory I didn't really know too well. But his parents supposedly had left him with Aunt May and Uncle Ben because they had to take a trip somewhere, which is explained. They left that as like another like part of the plot for like another film in the franchise. So it's kind of cool getting a look at them, and Peter as like a little kid. But yeah, you get to see him like in his high school years again with, but this time there's no Mary Jane, He's actually introduced to like a new love interest, who is Gwen Stacy. And Gwen Stacy was in Spider-Man 3, they had what's her name player, I forget her name, But in this film, she is like the primary love interest, And you can tell off the bat, she's kind of like an aggressive woman, aggressive like young girl for Peter Parker, So I thought that was kind of interesting and cool. And her father as well, who was played by Dennis Leary, Captain Stacy. He was kind of aggressive as well too. George Stacy is his actual name, and he was like aggressive as well too. So Peter Parker had to deal with them the way they are at times, But at the same time, he was okay and whatever. He had to do his thing. Now the thing that's kind of cool about this film too, as well, like I say, like that was like one of the gripes with it, but it was okay them retelling the origin tale, But that was one of the main things that they didn't really have to do again, was like explain like the origin tale again. But in this film, you have like Peter Parker, when he gets bitten by the spider, it's kind of different than what happened in the previous film. But it's kind of same, But the way he does it, it's slightly different. And the thing that's cool about it, they kept true to the comic books, which I thought was cool, was like his actual like web shooters. Like Peter Parker, when he actually like the web fluid, he wasn't actually shooting out his body like so like the Tobey Maguire Peter Parker from the previous 3 Spider-Man films, Sam Raimi director films. He wasn't shooting the webs out his hand, which I thought was kind of cool and interesting and made sense. If you had the ability to crawl a wall and all in proportionate strength of a spider, in spider sense, you might as well be able to shoot webs out your actually out your hand, But in this film, he actually builds his web shooters, which I thought was cool, because that's how Peter Parker was actually in the comic books. He actually made his own like web shooters, and he had to always have like web cartridges to like to put the fluid in it, you know. So I thought that was cool. They kept that true point of how it was in the comics, you know. Like the actual Spider-Man from comics, he actually had to make web shooters. He didn't actually shoot that out of his hand, you know. So I thought that was cool. Plus, you actually get to see this light flashing on his hand, like this red light, whenever he's shooting them, you know. I thought that was like awesome and cool. But yeah, that was one of the things kind of, you know, kind of sets it apart from like the other the last 3 Spider-Man films that were made by were directed by Sam Raimi. But yeah, and like the villain of the film, he turns out to be Dr. Kurt Connors, and of course, you know, he's like he was in like the other Spider-Man films too as well. But in this film, he actually becomes the villain, you know, because he's a scientist who wants to actually be able to generate limbs, you know, so like he's missing like a leg or an arm. He's trying to create like this experiment where you can like make your arm grow back or your leg grow back. So at one point in the film, he gets fired because like this situation with him and like a superior, and he decides to test like this experiment on himself, you know, out of frustration and being angry because he was fired, and thus it changes him into the lizard. He was already missing like one arm anyway, you know, so thus this changes him into the lizard. And plus there's also like a little more backstory to it too as well. With Kurt Connors, he actually had a relationship with Peter's parents too, you know. So I thought that was kind of cool, and that's why him and Peter Parker kind of were close in the film, you know. But yeah, and also like, you know, I thought this was pretty cool, and it's good getting to look at I think the Stacy's too as well, you know, because they were a major part, like I said, of the Spider-Man like mythos. So it was kind of good getting a good look at them. So that's basically what the film is about, you know. It's basically like a reboot. It retells like the origin tale of Spider-Man, you know. A new villain is introduced, who is the Lizard, you know, a very popular enemy of Spider-Man, you know. He is introduced in the film, and he's the only villain too in this film as well. But then, you know, like the thing that sets us apart from like the other films too is like I thought the music was actually completely rebooted too as well. And I thought it had like a cool musical score, you know, it gave like a nice like nostalgic feel to it, you know. I thought that was kind of cool, whatever. And like like my only gripe with it though was the Spidey suit, like the Spider-Man suit. It didn't really look too great, you know. I mean, it looks cool, but it looks like loose and like baggy, like on Andrew Garfield, you know. That's what I said, as if he lost a lot of weight or something like that. I thought that was kind of off, but I mean, it was still cool though, you know. Then another thing that was cool too as well, you know, they had like a lot of cool action sequences in it as well, like with Spider-Man having to rescue like this kid from like this burning car on like this bridge. Like it was awesome because like the car was like on fire and stuff. Like the visual effects in that scene were just like truly awesome, you know. Plus like the fight sequence with him and the lizard, and like in the high school, I thought that was cool as well, you know. They're actually having like a battle inside like the hallways of like the high school, and then you have like Stan Lee show up as well. He made like a cameo appearance, I think as like a custodian or something, and he shows up in the film while they were fighting. I thought that was a cool, awesome sequence, you know. Another thing I thought was cool about the lizard, like the sequences where he actually had his lab coat, I thought that was cool as well too, because he looks exactly like he looks like in the comic books, you know, basically. But most of the time he actually took it off. He always kept pulling it off when he's fighting Spider-Man. He usually pulled it off, you know. Because when Kurt Connors mutates, when he changes into the lizard, it kind of resembles like the Incredible Hulk. He busts all out his clothes and rips up, and he looks like muscular and stuff too, which I thought was like cool and awesome as well, you know. But and I thought like I liked the way they had Aunt May in this film too as well, played by Sally May. She was like very like old looking, you know, like the previous Aunt May, you know. I thought that was kind of cool that she wasn't too old looking, you know. And her chemistry, I don't think it was as good as like the one between Tobey Maguire, you know, and the other Aunt May in the previous 3 Spider-Man films. But I thought her chemistry with Andrew Garfield was cool, you know. I thought they did a good job. Now, Andrew Garfield, I thought he was a good, interesting Peter Parker, you know, and Spider-Man, and he was funny and humorous, almost as cool as Tobey Maguire, you know. He's his own Spider-Man, from my opinion. You know, I thought he did a good, decent job, especially with like the humor. Like when he was Spider-Man, I thought those moments were cool, you know, and funny and stuff. Just how Spider-Man actually is, you know. Like the film has like great visual effects, like the action sequences were pretty cool too, like I mentioned before, you know. I thought this was, I know a lot of people were actually against this film, you know. I thought it was pretty cool, decent, you know. And like the only gripe with it though, you know, that was kind of there, but you can kind of see that, you know, because like I said, the Batman films you do get to see Bruce Wayne parents getting murdered, like they do that a lot, which I'm okay with too, you know. It's like they're like grinding it, you know, like, well, you know, this is how this happened, you know, this is how this starts, how he became the hero and stuff. Whereas in this film, you know, like when Peter Parker does choose to become Spider-Man, it wasn't like a wrestling match or anything like that, you know. It was like a robbery in this store, and he refused to help like the store clerk. So the guy that robbed the store actually ran out and shot his Uncle Ben, and that's when he decided to become, you know. So it's kind of like different, you know. But yeah, I would give this a B minus. Like this particular Spider-Man, which is actually like the fourth in the Spider-Man film series, but it's actually a reboot of the franchise, you know. So I would give the basic Spider-Man a B minus. And I also thought Mark Webb did a good job on direction, you know, and the scenes with Spider-Man swinging around the city and stuff like that. I thought they were kind of cool, you know. So yeah, I would give the Amazing Spider-Man, I would give this a B minus, and this is a JDS 4696.